What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Coffee and Sugar podcast. We are so stoked to be back behind a mic talking to some really cool people, and we're really excited about this season. We took the summer off to focus on other aspects of Coffee and Sugar, like the publication, and just really getting our content under wraps and building relationships with people that, will support us and vice versa, allow us to support them. And we're super stoked about what we've been able to do in the last couple months, and we're excited to be back behind a mic and doing stuff with the podcast and interviewing people and talking to people that are doing some really cool things in the industry. And at the end of the day, we love talking to artists and we love talking to bands, but I think what we tend to forget and who we forget are the people behind the scenes that make the shows that you enjoy possible and make them enjoyable and memorable every time you go to a concert. That's the promoters, that's the security, that's all of the crew with the bands that put on the show, and no one really thinks about that, I feel. And we wanted to shed some light on those individuals that make those experiences so fun. And so this first episode, we bring in Corbin Alvae, I hope I pronounced that right. And he is a super dope dude who runs production for We Came as Romans, as well as does light design for Bad Omens and various other bands. So we hope you enjoy it, and I hope you're excited for these next round of episodes and the people that we're going to bring on. So stay tuned, and thank you all so much for supporting us and keeping us excited to deliver more content. So without further ado, enjoy. All right, we're live. Cool. So I have no script. I want this to be as genuine, casual as it can be. That's typically how I like to do this. This is our first one. You're actually first episode of season 5. So
hell yeah,
super dope. We took the whole summer off.
Well, thanks for having me on, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've been following your work for probably 6 months now, and watching, because We Came as Romans is a band that I've been following for over a decade now. And so I like to just keep up to date with who they're working with and all that stuff, as well as, their photographer, Paxton. I've been following him for a while now too. And I just think it's super dope what you do behind the scenes. And this entire season is based around everyone that works in music and actually makes live music happen that, people forget about. And that's kind of what brought us here. And that's right. What made me want to reach out to you. So
I appreciate it. My
hope for this is just to get to know, one, where it all started with you, and then from there, see where the conversation goes, and then talk about all the cool things that you've been doing on tour with We Came as Romans and before, and then maybe what you got coming up, and see what happens.
Yeah, speaking of We Came as Romans, it's who I'm out with currently right now on that Trinity of Terror tour. So we're out here ripping this tour with Ice Nine and
awesome.
And Blackfield.
Dope. I have a buddy named Hunter who is on tour with on that same tour with Blackville Brides, doing all of the content for them.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure. Cool. I'm sure you've maybe seen him running around on stage with them. I don't know. Yeah. So he's local to Dallas, and it's just kind of cool to see. I mean, where people will end up. You know what I mean?
We literally go everywhere, and that's the one thing about this lifestyle is that we were in a new city literally every day, whether it's a show day, or if we're rehearsing for pre-production somewhere else, or if it's show day off. We're in a new city every 24 hours, and that's the one exciting thing about touring and being a crew member. Working with these bands is, like I said, we're in a new city every day and exploring and seeing new venues, seeing new areas. So it's exciting for sure.
Yeah, and I'm curious because everyone starts somewhere. And you don't just get to where you are now based on pure luck, right? It's not easy work to be no one, and then doing production for We Came as Romans or lighting for Bad Omens. And I'm curious where one you started, and then where that tipping point actually happened.
Right. So, ironically, I actually didn't start in lighting. I actually started what I do as a touring crew member. Is I started as a merch guy. So way back in the heyday, I used to run a small clothing company out of Detroit, locally, while I was in high school, and then during that time, that's when I was also involved in the auditorium stage crew my freshman year through my junior year, doing all the musicals, handling the production for that. It sounded interesting when the announcement came out about the music teacher was looking for stage crew, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. So I went to the meeting, and after that, like, I learned, I started learning stuff about lighting, all that. But then, but even during that, that's when I was still doing merch. Like, I was getting involved in festivals. I did my first tour when I was 15, and just pretty much just started to learn, the ins and outs of the touring lifestyle. And granted, I was a kid, so I was a little new to everything, and getting my feet wet. So I was doing like the shitty van tours, and seeing where everything gets started. And then I gradually started to learn more from working at the local music venues in Detroit, learning from different production managers and different lighting people and merchandise reps, just learning like the ins and outs from the venue side. So, and then just applying that to when I was starting to tour. And then once I graduated high school, I actually went to school for digital media. So at the time I was doing photo and video at the time because I wanted to be a music video director. And so I did that for a while, and then in between that, I started doing bigger tours with merch. And that's when I started getting involved with TMing and learning the ins and outs of that. And then I give it to this band from Detroit back in 2015. It's a band called Wilson. Shout out to them. I love those dudes. And they were the ones who actually took the big shot on me to take me on one of my very first big Live Nation AEG tours. And they taught me pretty majority of what I know now. And so then from there, like, I started getting sick of doing merch, and I was like, I miss doing lighting. So I went back, started doing lighting picked it back up in 2016. And that's when I actually sat down with the Romans guys. And because at the time they were doing a holiday show at one of our big main venues, a hometown venue. And I talked to Andy. I was like, hey, like, I'm off right now. I'm trying to get back into lighting. How do you guys feel about like doing a small floor package for, these two holiday one-offs that we're doing, what they were doing? And so they signed off on it, and, I went and did those two, and I shit you not, like, I went back, watched videos from that time to now. I was like, wow, what a difference. But it's like, you got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, then after that, like, I kept in contact with them, and then just started really building up my lighting repertoire and learning more ins and outs and, more skills about lighting. And then 2018, Dave reached out to me. He's like, hey, we need a PA / someone who can help us assist, with lighting. And our merch guy at the time was the one who recommended me. They're like, hey, let's just bring Corbin out. Like, he knows the stuff, he can help us. And so from there on out, like, they pretty much, it was pretty much like the test run to where, like, all right, let's see how he does. And then sure enough,
Right.
from 2018 to now, like, they pretty much put me from just being the PA / lighting assistant to where the show at the time was all time coded and made out in Ableton, to where now I pretty much handle their live show with my lighting console. That's, whether I'm punting the show or if I'm fully time coding it, and pretty much went from being their PA to their production manager now.
Nice. So I want to go back to where you said you were 15 when you went on your first tour.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think about what I was doing at 15, and it was not that cool.
Oh, trust me, trying to convince my parents to let me go, it was night and day.
And well, I'm curious now because one, how long was the tour? And I'm assuming it was not during the school year, and it was in the summer.
It was definitely It was only a 7-day tour. It was in. I remember this tour specifically. It was a 7-day tour. It was the rig that we were in was like a 19. I want to say it was like a 1992, like one of those conversion vans that has like the like the what is it? An oven in it, like a mini fridge. It looked like a hippie van, and like the trailer that we had at the time, it looked like something that you would like haul like livestock in. I was like,
goodness,
what is going on? And being on one of those tours, it's like I'm not getting paid anything. The band is only making enough, to get from one place to another. It's like it came down to the point. It's like, oh well, I gotta call my parents for money so I can survive.
That's so funny. I would have, I guess I would have never guessed that like that was something that anyone would be doing at 15. So I'm sure as a 15-year-old, you're like, that was pretty cool. I don't care how shitty it might have been, but it was pretty cool.
It was really funny too, because like when my parents signed off on it, I remember my mom was like, before I sign off on this, I have to meet the band. And so so the couple of the band members come to my house, and they give my parents the lowdown. And once my mom, because her being a mom, she was scared. So I'm her firstborn, and I still remember this to this day. She literally looks at one of the band members and goes, "Just so you know, this is my firstborn. If anything fucking happens to him, it's your ass. I'm coming for you." And I will that will always be one of my very, very first funny moments when I first started touring, was that one moment that my mom did, and I will forever tell that story because it literally shows like parents should and trust their children to pursue like what they dream to do. But even then, like when I started touring, even at the time, even my parents and my family were just like, at some point, you're gonna have to get a real job, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And so even throughout, it's like, I would always bring up, it's like, yeah, I'm going on tour, and then the same thing kept happening, the same recurring thing, like, oh, like eventually you have to get a real job, this and that. And then I invited them out to one of the festival shows that I was working, and I had them show up, and they just saw the amount of people that were there to see the band that I was with. They're like, all right, we get it. And now to this day, like they'll drive out to any of the tours that I'm on, and they'll come, especially like when we're home in Detroit, like they'll come to any of the Detroit shows of any tour that I'm on. They appreciate it, and it was a really good feeling, when especially with my mom, because she gets a little emotional sometimes at these shows. Cause she's like, how did a 50-year-old go from doing a shitty band tour to now you're doing big arenas in front of 20,000 people? So.
Well, I'm sure it's gratifying for them, right? It's like, I think we're all told at a young age, it's like, you go to school, you get a job, you work, but they don't look at anything. And I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day about just like working in a creative field, and how a lot of times your parents don't see it as a lifelong job that would actually support you and put you in the positions to grow and succeed in that field or whatever it may be. It's just a stigma. Right?
And that's the other conversation that I always kept having with them too. It's like, you have to start somewhere as a touring crew person, because there's going to be gigs where where you start off making next to nothing, and then as you continue to grow and other bands, bigger bands and scenes start to notice, they're like, oh hey, we should offer him a job and pay him more than this band is paying, see what they can do. And then that's when the bigger artists, the arena artists, start noticing, like, oh wow, he's really talented and a hard worker, we should try and snag him up and pay him this amount. And you start to grow from working your ass off pretty much.
Right, it's like jumping from job to job. I mean, it really literally is a job. And so, it's just looking at it the same way, whether it's a corporate job or whatever it may be.
It's pretty much like, in a way, it's like a promotion.
Yeah,
you go from working, a small gig, with smaller up and coming bands to, these big bands that we grew up listening to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm a concert photographer, and it back 10 years ago, right? You listen to this music and you're like, I love it. I love this. I love this band. I love that. And then you never imagine years later you'll be touring with them, or you'll be taking photos of them, or you'll be doing whatever for them, right? It's a cool feeling, and I'm sure that you feel the same way.
Oh, it's great. I mean, that was exactly like the feeling that I got when I got the call to go and start working with Breaking Benjamin, because I grew up listening to them galore through my middle school years into high school. I was like, this band is great. And then back in 2017, when I was still with Wilson, we went and did a tour with Breaking Ben. It was like a small club tour. It was a routing tour to go do Shiprocked. And I met the Breaking Ben camp, and we vibed. And then I just stayed in contact with them, and over the years. And then I get a call back a few months ago from their TM. He's like, "Hey, ready to come work for us?" I'm like, "Yeah." So
no, that's so cool. It's almost like surreal, because for me, I haven't done anything super super cool, but one of the things that for me I thought was more like a point in my just photo career was being able to take photos of Korn, a year ago. And I just did it again literally last week. And it's one of those things where it's like everything comes full circle, and it's just a gratifying feeling for you to be like, yeah, I did that. I can say I did that. I can die and say I did that,
Exactly.
And I'm sure for you, it's the experiences mean the world, and that's what makes everything so exciting and makes you want to keep doing it, I'm assuming. And also
100%.
The people you're working with, I'm sure. I've been watching the updates from the We Came as Romans camp and everything you guys are doing, and it looks like a blast.
This camp is one of the funniest and fun outgoing camps that I've worked with, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, anytime anyone asks about, so how is it with the Romans camp? And all I have to do is literally just show them a reel or a TikTok. It's like, oh, you want to know? Here you go. That's pretty much how I can explain how our camp is. But it's like our entire camp, too, are also very, very hard workers. Like, outside of all the comedy and the goofiness that we do, I mean, we got Andy, who designs all the merch. You got Puckett, who handles a lot of the marketing. Dave helps assist with TM stuff. Louie helps me with lighting, with Andy as well, when we start designing stuff. And Josh also helps with the say too of like what we want to do on the stage, but also helps to Puckett with the marketing stuff. Like, so not only like I was saying, not only are we a funny crew, but we're also some of the hardest working people that anyone will be.
Well, and I think that shows on stage 100%, because after COVID, quote unquote, ended and shows were coming back, one of the first shows I was able to get back to was the To Plant a Seed 10-year anniversary tour, and incredible show, all around great performance, as well as the production, and I think it was right around a year ago, actually, when I got back into shooting again. That was, I think, when I found you and started following you and everything that you were doing. And then it was just kind of like watching an evolution of a sense, I guess. I don't know. But it was really cool. And I love that production for what you did for the 10-year anniversary tour. And then the ending with the montage clips of Kyle. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't like tear up a little bit at the end there, because that was powerful, and I mean, overall, great job on that.
So what's wild about that design, actually, so that was actually probably design 4 of that layout, and because back before COVID happened, like I think we went through 2 different designs before the band and I agreed on the one that we originally designed for the 2020 run. Like, we're gonna do this. It looks great. Like, we brought out 4 video wall panels at the time because we were playing. You know, it was a club tour, so we put everything on rolling carts, and then I ended up building these fake trees out of. I don't even want to get into that because I hated those things, but they looked sick on the stage. So it really made, you know, the Planet Seed side of it come to life. And so we did that, and then COVID hit, and then when we started slowly getting word back that we are possibly going to go back on tour, we're like, all right, so what do we do? So I sat in front of my design studio, designed a couple plots, sent it over to the band. There were moments where like, no, we don't like this. Like, go back to the drawing board. And then the one that we brought out for the tour, Andy and I went back and forth on it. He was like, why don't we try tilting this? Why don't we try putting this panel here, this light there? And sure enough, and him and I literally, because we did it when I was actually at his house, and we literally looked at his big giant monitor screen. We're all like, that's it. That's the design we're doing. And that's the one nice thing about this band is that collabing with them for these stage designs, you know, I'll pitch them an idea. You know, it's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What are the notes? What do you guys want me to change? What do you guys want me to keep? What do you guys want me to get rid of? And they're honest with me, you know, and that's the one thing that I really appreciate about it is like they push me hard to make the stage come to life. And, you know, whatever vision they're thinking, whatever vision I'm thinking, it's like it's a one big collaboration. And that's like with the Planet Seed tour, you know, it was just one giant collaboration with all the band. It's like, you know, that was one of the biggest albums that they put out. So it's like we have to make the statement. And then that's when we started talking about the set list, you know, obviously the Planet Seed from front to back, you know, some of the newer stuff. And then when we got towards Promise Me, we're like, all right, so we definitely got to do something. And that's when we pretty much did the remontage of the memorial video for Kyle. You know, it's like we got to honor him, you know, in this way because, you know, it's, you know, with him not being there for that, it's like, you know, we got to, you know, we got to keep the spirit alive. And we do that every night with even when we're not headlining, you know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, with that, even during that song too, it's like I was always in tears at front of house during that. It's like, fuck, I wish he was here to see this because he would be fucking so stoked.
Well, I think one of the coolest things about that that show and that the Promise Me performance or montage and everything is, you know, it not only was like that just like really cool to see, but it was when the band came back and they were like, it was like Dave was singing with Kyle again. That was, dude, that just like washed over me.
Yeah, that was one thing that, especially during rehearsals, when they first brought the idea out, I was like, yeah, you guys absolutely 100% have to do that. And it was the same thing, like, you know, even some of the fans after some of those shows on that tour, they literally would walk up to myself and our front of house engineer at the time, like literally in tears, just thanking us, like, thank you guys for helping this band bring this show to life. You know, then they would, you know, they go into more stories like how this album, you know, how they love that album, and you know, it was like, wow, this is a really good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's that's probably an amazing feeling, right? Like, because you're part of that, you know, that story that, you know, We Came as Romans is writing and performing, and the history of the band. You know, that's special beyond belief, I can imagine. And I'm sure it feels great to be able to honor Kyle in that type of way through, you know, live shows. And obviously something that he was really, really good at.
Oh, yeah. He was great. For sure.
Yeah. Man, yeah, no, that's great setup there. I loved everything about that show, and great job in terms of everything and when it came to the production and everything that you guys put together.
I'm waiting for them to tell me that we're doing a 20-year for it. It's like, all right, cool, going bigger.
There's and that's the thing is the one thing I appreciate about We Came as Romans, and I'm not just saying I'm a big fan because we're doing this. I've literally, they were one of the first bands that kind of introduced me into like the post-hardcore scene back in high school, right? And they have been able to stay so consistent over the years, like over a decade that I've been listening to them. And I think that's something that I always talk about when it comes to We Are, is that they are a band that can stay consistent and has done it so well and evolved so ever so slightly. And this last like chunk of music that they put out has been, I think, some of the best I've ever heard. Ever.
It's definitely some of my favorite stuff that they have put out. Like they put their full hard work and heart into this album, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it because it's good from front to back. It's so good.
That's exciting. That's super exciting. I want to transition into the piece where I want what to come out of this is to have some sort of inspiration from people that are going to listen, that may be interested in production, may be interested in light design, to try to use this as like an opportunity to learn and grow into, taking on a role in lighting for a touring band or whatever it may be. And so I'm sure there's a lot you can say in terms of what all of that could probably encompass. But, obviously, I think you and I can both agree that a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time, talking to the people and doing good work that is, being seen by other people, right? And just being a good person in the scene, right?
Right, 100%. Yeah, I mean, pretty much like what I tell people that ask me, like, oh, how do I get started in this? Like, what should I do? I was like, and normally my response is, work for your local venues, listen to the people who have been doing this for years, ask as many questions as you can, learn as much stuff as you can, network, and the most important thing, don't be a dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you start, showing, that side of yourself and thinking that you're a know-it-all, this and that, it's like people are going to hear about it. It's like, then you're not going to get gigs. You're not going to get, an artist to take a shot on you. This and that. It's like, just work hard. Don't be a dickhead. Network, ask questions.
Yep. I was I went on a little mini Texas tour with my friends in a band called Archetypes Collide.
Oh, nice.
And
I watched them at, what festival was it?
Welcome to Rockville?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've known the lead singer for like 12 years, and I've like got to watch them grow this band. It's been cool. They're actually doing an interview tonight with Danny Wimmer Presents and
nice.
Zebra, whatever it is, interview.
Nice.
So, but I did a Texas tour with them. I did San Antonio, Houston, San Antonio, and then Dallas. And it was my first like quote unquote tour. I joke with a buddy because like I don't look at it as a tour, but I guess technically it is. I was riding along and doing the things. But one of the things I noticed, and it goes back to just being a decent human being that wants to help people and just not being a dickhead. After every show, I was doing content for them, so I was doing photo, video, and whatnot. And after each show, they're out in the crowd watching, talking to the fans and taking pictures and whatnot.
Yeah.
And every night, I had at least 2 or 3 different people walk up to me and ask me like, "Hey, how did you get in this position to take photos for this band?" And it was a weird feeling for me because I didn't look at myself as like a touring photographer. It's more so a really fun hobby that I get to do.
Right.
And being able to just like be like, well, this is what I've done. This is where I kind of started, and in like a 10 to 15 minute conversation. But it's like kind of gratifying to be like, hey, I think I might have just helped someone, or maybe they're gonna go actually pursue something or whatever it may be, right? So I got a little bit of a taste of what that kind of feels like. And, I hope I get to do it more. I'm actually going up to Louder Than Life with the guys next week.
Nice. We'll see you. We'll see you there.
Oh, are you guys going to be there as well?
Yeah, we're on the 24th.
I think they're playing Friday. I don't know what day that is. Wait, you guys are on Saturday. We're on that Friday, but I think we're staying for Saturday. I don't know, but so if you guys are around, I'll shoot you a message. We can actually meet in person. Yeah. That'd be cool.
100%. Yeah.
But anyways, I say all that with the point of I think it's going to be a reoccurring thing said on these next episodes. It's like, don't be a dickhead, because the moment you are, and it spreads like wildfire. People
100%.
Like you said.
Oh yeah. And with especially with the crew side of the industry, it's like somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. Like, we all know each other in some way, shape, or form. Word travels fast.
Mm-hmm. No, and there's like that term blacklisted in the photography world that I'm sure is also pretty apparent in the production world in general. People throw that word around, and I mean, it's like a serious thing. You don't want to be known as someone that is someone that no one wants to work with. You know what I mean? So, I'm sure you've had your fill of stories in the years that you've been doing this.
Yeah, but I have met some very interesting characters for sure.
Yeah. So I don't want to gloss over the fact that you also do work for Bad Omens. When did I guess obviously you've been doing with We Came as Romans for a while. When did the Bad Omens introduction happen?
So I met the Bad Omens guys a couple years ago, and actually when I was with Romans, actually when we did that Bullet for My Valentine tour, and Bad Omens was on it, that's when I met them. And they're great dudes, love those guys. And we would see them at festivals, and they were just out with Ice Nine Kills when I was LDing for them last year on the Ice Nine headliner. And I watched their shows, and I was like, I'm gonna LD for this band one day, just to see. And sure enough, back during the early summer when I was out with Crown the Empire doing their 10-year tour, I get a call from their TM, and he's like, hey, like, we have this headliner, are you available? And I'm not gonna lie, like, at first, like, I really thought about it, because like at the moment of where I was with my touring, I was pretty much I pretty much wanted to take the rest of the year off after I got back from Breaking Benjamin. And so I was like, I told him, I was like, I'll think about it. And then I really thought about it. I was like, you know what? I really want to LD for this band. I love their music. I love them as humans. Like, so then I called their TM back, and I was like, hey, let's do it. So and then they gave me their ideas of what they want to do for this tour, and I laid it out for them and sent it over to Noah, and he was like, let's do it. So, and we're still doing small revisions. It's once we get that final product, like, it pretty much what is going to be on the headliner is gonna be sick. Mm-hmm. What we had planned.
Yeah, no, I saw that shows are selling out pretty quick.
Yeah. So
that's probably super exciting.
Yeah, like when I saw the flyer today, I was like, wow, this is gonna be huge. Mm-hmm. And and that new album that they dropped too, it's such a good album. It's such a good album.
I don't know anyone that I've talked to that doesn't like that album. I mean, it's gold front to back.
It's a banger.
Yeah, 100%. So that's happening. When is that tour starting?
That is November. It's like first week of November through mid-December.
So, I mean, I don't know how long you've been on tour, but it feels like We Came as Romans has been running for a little while now.
Yeah. This year. I mean, this year alone, like we weren't as busy this year, but on my end, I've been on the go. Like I wasn't really supposed to tour as much as I am this year because I was like, I toured a lot. I was busy when touring got back last year. On top of that, not only like when touring came back, but last year I was also PMing for a dance competition. So I was traveling galore from February to June all around the U.S. doing these dance competitions. And the touring slowly started to come back and went and did a couple tours. And I was like, wow, I was out a lot in 2021. So maybe I'll take a break for 2022 and just stick with, because at the time I confirmed Fit for an Autopsy. So I went and did their headliner with them January, February. And then I was going to pretty much focus on Romans stuff the rest of the year. And, at least, take some time off, reset. And then some things happened. Came up and all these other offers came and I was like, you know what? Well, I guess I got to tour the rest of the year. So I've been on the go since January.
So what's your? Well, obviously you said you're gonna take a break. So
yeah,
what's gonna be? What do you have on the ideas of what kind of vacation you're gonna take once you get done with all these tours?
As long as it involves an ocean, a beach, and a lot of strong pina coladas, that's all I need.
There you go. Awesome. All right. So a question came to mind. What would you say is the hardest part about your job?
Hardest part about my job?
Mm-hmm.
Show day. When it comes to show days, probably having to pretty much just like there's some shows where, the stress of working with the local hands sometimes, it's like, that happens, but we still make the show happen. But then outside of the show days, when we're traveling a lot, is pretty much just taking care of your physical and mental health, and especially for me, because I'm gone galore. So, and this is why I praise for anyone who needs therapy, go and do it because it helps a lot, especially if you're in the touring world. It's just having somebody that's not involved in this side of the industry, like that you can talk to, and then the other thing too, especially for me, is trying to maintain a relationship, and because there have been times where I've met a couple girls that thought they understood, but then 6 months into the relationship, they're like, I can't deal with you being gone so much, like this isn't gonna work. Like I had one ex where she's like, "Can you just stop touring? Just stay with me." I'm like, I'm not giving up what I've worked my ass off for the past 10 plus years, just because you can't handle me being gone so much. So I would say, like on show days, I would say, trying to, there's a majority, a lot of the venues have great stage hands, and it's like great, it's awesome, it's making my day easy, and and then there's other venues where it's like shit.
Yeah,
but
I think you kind of hinted at something that I feel like a lot of people, the fans, people that go to shows, don't really realize, and it's that you guys have lives outside of being on tour.
Yeah,
like people look at, even the artists themselves, right? Like they don't. I feel like a lot of times they don't think about what they do outside of being on stage, or for you running production for a show. And a lot of the time, you're in a van going to another city.
Yeah,
and that's a. I mean, show days, right? Yeah, like that's hours of time. But everything after and before that,
we're hours and hours and thousands of miles away from our own bed and our family and our friends, and it's like that's why a lot of the times, you hear some of these band members and crew members, be very big advocates for mental health. It's like this lifestyle isn't for everyone. Like you have to be a certain kind of person that's okay with being gone for an X amount of months, being on a bus or in a van or in a bandwagon, with whether you're with, the main band that you work with that you've been friends for years with, or if you're hopping into a new campus with people that you have never met before. Like you have to be comfortable with that. And if that's something that bothers you, it's like touring's not gonna be for you. Like you have to be okay with being around people. I wouldn't say 24/7, but you have to be okay with living on a bandwagon or a bus or in a van with X amount of completely different kinds of people.
Right. No, I didn't even think about that. It's jumping camps and not knowing the people and being able to adapt like immediately.
Yeah. Like that's
yeah.
It's a very like interesting topic, and I've had to experience it firsthand myself a few times. With a couple of these bands that I had to LT for this year so far. I've never I've seen them live, but I have never personally have met them and spent time. But then towards the end of the tour, it's like they become some of your best friends.
Right, yeah, and that's always the hope, right? That they become some of your best friends.
It's always the hope.
You don't want it to go the other way.
No,
but yeah, I feel like people sometimes don't forget that. I feel like a lot of people like to assume personalities of people, right, based on just what they see on socials and whatnot. But I'm sure it's a completely different ball game when you're actually working with those people, and you have to learn personalities. You have to learn how to interact with people. Like it's a whole mental game, right?
And then you also gotta have a good spatial awareness, because there's some people that that are kept to themselves. They don't want to be bothered. Whether it's on show days or on days off, and then there's other people that just that want to hang out with everyone. It's a spatial awareness and understanding a crew member and a band member's personalities, to make it work on the road.
Right. Yeah. My friends in Archetypes, they did their first cross country tour with Amity Affliction and C4 Cinema, and they said that they really very rarely saw the guys in Amity. They kept to themselves. They did their own things. I think the connection between the bands and stuff is another very interesting dynamic that new touring bands have to also learn, right? So yeah, no, it's you get pretty good at. I'm assuming you get pretty good at meeting people and making that good first impression. I assume.
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes I'm really bad about it. Sometimes it takes like a couple of weeks into the tour to actually, remember some people's names or actually go and introduce myself. Sometimes, sometimes I forget, and I'm human, but sometimes I forget to go and introduce myself. But it also comes along with how show days are, and with being there early, and but by the time once we get into the groove, it's like now we're all tour homies on the road, because and it's the same thing with the others outside of getting along with the crew and band that you work for, but you also got to get along with the other bands, because you got to see them every day.
Yeah, absolutely. When do you feel like, at least in your career, in the years that you've been doing this since you were 15 years old, where do you feel like, I brought it up earlier, the tipping point was in terms of I can do this for the rest of my life, or this is something I know I'm going to do for a very long time, if it's not the rest of my life. When do you feel like that happened?
I think that happened when Romans gave me the full lead to do anything production related. When they handed that torch off to me, they're like, "Hey, we trust you. Let's see what we can do." So I think that was pretty much the point in my career where I was like, "This is exactly what I'm going to do the rest of my life."
That's awesome.
Or at least until I decide to get sick of touring.
Right, which very well can happen. Amity put out that they were delaying, their tour because they were just like, we need a break. I mean, it does take a toll, and I can imagine a pretty huge toll on people when it's every single night, almost every single night, given the few off days that you'll have, doing the same show every night for different people in different venues in different cities. I don't blame them one bit. I mean, they've been touring a lot, and it was only going to get more busy as they went over to Europe and whatnot. Which I think that brings me to my next question is, I'm assuming We Came As Romans camp is going to be, one of the main camps that you work with a lot. But is there a camp out there that, if you got the opportunity to go do lighting or production for, which one would it be?
My long-term goal is Doja Cat. Doja Cat, BB Rexa, or Dua Lipa.
Really? I was not expecting.
I like pop artists. The same thing with Madison Beer. Madison Beer would be really fun.
I've never heard of Madison Gear.
He's great. Or I don't know. I'd really like to do Millennium. Would be fun. Millennium. Who else? I don't know. There's a bunch of other artists that I have to think of who it would be. But yeah, like long-term goals. Yeah, Doja Cat, Dua Lipa, BB Rexa.
No, that's cool. It just crossed my mind that, electronic artists have majority of everything that they do is production, right? Like the lights are so important to the music.
Oh yeah.
and so, I just feel like the electronic world would be really fun for what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And Millennium is fantastic as well. So
Millennium would be fun. Sullivan King would be really fun. Who else? I don't know. There's so many good artists right now that are hot. It's like I wish I could do production for them right now.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's like I'll always be a metalcore kid. So this is a genre that it's a fun genre to do. The music's fun, the fans are fun, the bands are great.
Right. No, cool. That's awesome. So moving into how do I explain this? Like the nitty gritty of what you do, right? Like I asked you what was the hardest part about your job or whatever it is, but when you're in the moment, when WeCar is on stage, what's going through your mind with everything that you're doing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. I remember telling the same thing in another interview that I had to do, and it's that feeling where because we have what we call the 3-minute warning song that they'll play right before the intro starts, and as soon as that starts rolling, and that's when I fade those house lights down, and I'm just like, all right, this is it. Like it's blaring in my in-ears, I'm getting hyped, and then I'm doing a couple scenes, get the crowd ready, and then as soon as that 3-minute warning song stops, stage is completely black, and then that's when the dark gloom intro starts, and just hearing the roar of all those fans, and it's like, well, this is it. We did it. We're here. I'm in the zone at that point. It's like as soon as I hear that intro in my ear, it's like I'm in the zone. Like I'm focused.
Mm-hmm. And I was looking at I've played with soundboards before. I've played with some production boards before. Obviously, it comes with practice and everything that you do every single time you're putting on a production. But what has been, I guess, the biggest struggle for you in terms of maybe learning new equipment, or when you show up to a venue and you have to figure out how are you going to get things to line up the way that you want them to,
right.
Or is it even streamlined? I mean, I don't know.
It goes pretty much day to day with venues, especially with the club tours. There's some days where I have to dump down the main design to one of our B, C, or D rigs, to make the show work. And there's been moments where I've struggled learning a couple new things, but I'm a very, very, very hands-on person. Like if you put something in front of me, I'm sure I could probably learn it. Maybe not right off the bat, but maybe give me a couple weeks, and I'll have maybe the basics down. But they're especially with lighting consoles. There's a couple lighting consoles that I know the basics of, but they're not my preferred. But then there's my main one, which is Ava Lights. Ava Lights my main lighting console brand that I absolutely use for any of my shows, whether it's Romans, it's Bad Omens, or any other artist that I LD for. It's like I'll always use Ava lights for it.
Right. So that leads into my next question. What's a oh shit moment that you've had during a show that you're like, fuck, I
got one. It actually happened on the Cold Lake War Tour. We were in Milwaukee, and it wasn't even like a hazer. What it was like an ice snow machine, and the liquid bottle decided to spill over, which then led over to my DMX splitter, shorting out one of the DMX cables, and made the floor package go crazy. So it got so wild that we had to pause the show real quick. That way I could just literally just flick the cable. It's like, all right, it's good for the rest of the show. Let's just finish it. That, or I had an incident where the cryo situation that happened.
A cryo?
Yeah, like a cryo cannon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and this is why, like, I always have like the safety speech with any stagehands and security. It's like, hey, I have cryo. This is what they do. Please be mindful and aware of it. I had an issue where one of the stagehands didn't listen to me properly, and when I went to go and clear the nozzles were all cleared. I was like, all right, nozzles are cleared. I'm going to start taking the hoses off. One of the stagehands didn't listen to me correctly and decided to start taking the hose off while the tank was still on. And so when that happens, there's still a little bit of back pressure in it. So as they were taking the hose off, the hose decided to fly off and do like a snake thing. It's like, oh, and we all heard it. We're like, what the hell's going on? And I looked down, and dude was like, that hose nearly just took my face out. I was like, well, was the tank off? He was like, no. I was like, well, there it is. So then the rest of the night, I was like, no one touch these. I'm handling it.
Oh man.
So,
go ahead.
And that's like, it's the same thing too with all these other shows too that that I have cryo on, whether it's club show or even the festival scene. It's like I tell the stage manager, it's like, look, yeah, we have cryo. I don't want any of the stagehands touching it, and this is why. I'm like, fair enough. Like, they can set my jets up, but anything that involves the tanks, I'll handle it.
So I just remembered. So at that We Came as Romans show for the 10-year To Plant a Seed, you actually told the photographers, you brought like, I think you like brought the photographers over and told like, hey, these are cannons.
Yep.
They go really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stand near them.
Yep. Yep.
That's funny.
It's always my one safety thing, especially when we're doing the headline. It's even when we're doing support runs that allow us to do cryo. It's like, I'll always bring the photographers in right before the set just to remind them. It's like, hey, I know you guys are only in here the first 3 songs, but during these first 3 songs, I do have cryo that goes off. That is time coded. That, I know when it goes off, but they don't. So please be very mindful. Don't put your camera equipment over it, because we're not going to be liable for it. So
right.
They all listen, which is great. So
I mean, I think that's just a super important point, like the safety of it all, right? If you hadn't told us that, I probably would have been standing right next to it when it went off. Yeah. Like, they're there on stage, like you can see them, but it's just like a black chute, and it's next to the grates that they stand on. You just think it's part of the whole thing, right? And then you expect it.
And then you see it go up. You're like, oh, okay.
I've definitely been near one when it's gone off and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But no, that's so funny. I was just thinking back to that because, like, yeah, I definitely could have had my my face blasted if I was standing next to it.
It was the same way too. Whenever we do confetti, same thing. Confetti involves a CO2 canister, and and usually we'll get tubes that are like that big, that shoot the confetti out, and I always have to warn security, and it's like, hey, this is gonna go off on the last hit of the last song.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, it is gonna be loud, and it's gonna shoot a lot of confetti out. So just please be mindful of the tank and of the cannon. And same thing, like is they all listen. They pay attention.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's the same thing as security. I've watched security get like freaked out because they're like not expecting it at all.
They're like, oh shit, what was that? But then you get some of them. They're like, yeah, this is sick.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also get security where I have to remind them. It's like, hey, we do have cryo. Please make sure that the crowd surfers do not knock these over.
Yeah, no, it's and then you got the people in like certain shows, which I would assume at this point there wouldn't be any of the cryo, but that like jump on stage and then like jump off, and
I've been. At this point, like there have been a couple shows where because I won't do cryo without a barricade. Like if there's no barricade, even if I am confirmed that day, I won't do it. It's a safety thing, especially when you work for a band that has a lot of heavy crowd surfing. It's going to take one incident to whether, if that tank gets knocked over or if that jet gets bumped and, gets turned to where it's facing the crowd. Like, if an incident I legally have to stop the show. So,
right.
And that's the one thing that we don't want to ever happen because, there's going to be a lot of pissed off fans and this and that. It's like, that's the last, like, I'm very big with safety when it comes to that kind of stuff between cryo and the same thing with pyro. Like, because when I'm out with Breaking Ben right now, they have pyro at their show, and I help assist with the VIP, and we have this on stage experience, and we have to remind our VIPs that are standing stage left to stage right on these platforms, like, hey, we do have pyro. You have to get off these decks for either you got to use the restroom or if you just want to go back to your seats. We have to advise and escort because we know what the pyro hits are, but these fans don't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if an incident happens, or if somebody, hops off that platform when a pyro is about to go, like pyro's not going to hit that go button. Like they're going to like hit the red button, to stop the hit. And pyro's expensive.
Mm-hmm. No, I can imagine. So, what's been your favorite setup in your career so far? And maybe we've already talked about it. I don't know, but what would you say that you were like, I felt pretty damn proud of that?
I would say my top three. I think my third one, even though it was short lived because of COVID, the Spirit Box design that I did for them when we did that Limp Bizkit tour, that was really fun. It was on these 4 rolling cards, and I had these fixtures that did 360 movements, so that was really fun to do. Number 2 would probably be the Crown the Empire 10-year design, and then number 1 is Plant Seed.
Yeah, got it. When was that Crown the Empire one? Was that after or before COVID?
That was early summer. That was end of May through early July.
Got it. Okay, so you were on tour with them during So What Fest, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
That was actually when. So I went and did So What with Crown. Then the next day we went and did pre-production for the 10-year, and then that Sunday I went back to So What to do stuff with Romans, and then got dropped off at the hotel. That's when we went and started the Fallout 10-year tour, and I had to leave that tour early, so I actually didn't do the Texas shows on that tour. I had to hop off early to go to Sweden with the Romans guys to go do a festival.
So how much of this is more so curious for me, and maybe not even related to production, but I don't know, maybe it is, but how much of a pain in the ass is like traveling to Europe for a tour and having to take everything that you can?
It's a headache sometimes, but we have our little tips and tricks that we usually will do to where everything does go smooth, to where customs doesn't really bother us. We'll get stopped maybe once or twice, and Blue Moon, but they're usually pretty chill about it. And sometimes the Border Patrol are fans of us, so they're like, "Oh, yeah, we love that song from this album." It's like, "Oh yeah, thanks."
That's so funny. Honestly, I mean, I think of like TSA and security and all that stuff. It's just security and TSA. I guess you never really. Never think.
I think my favorite is whenever we have to go and get our gear checked at luggage, and the front desk people are just like, what is all this? We're like, oh yeah, we're in a band. We have about 20 cases that we have to check. And I just assume like you bring as much as you can, and then once you get over there, it's just like renting a van and throwing it all in there. Yeah. Or a truck or a trailer or whatever. Yeah.
Maybe.
Whichever. Yeah, whether it's double decker bus or a van trailer, whichever. Yeah, because we're limited to pretty much like what we can bring over there from the States. Like the guys will bring their guitars and bring their Kempers, but as far as production goes, like we'll have to get that all over there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I assume just rent it and run with it there.
Right.
Got it. So we're coming up 2 minutes from an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. I told you that this would be an hour long.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this, Corbin. Like, again, thanks for coming on and chatting.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know if this was something that you did. I think it's a very unique season in the sense of I don't see a lot of people actually interview people that work in music a lot. It's always the artists, right?
Right. We very, very, very rarely see like people that work behind the scenes get interviewed. Like you said, it's always the artist. Right. It's always the artist, but then it's like, hey, yeah, you guys are interviewing artists, but it's like, hey, guess who makes the show happen? Us crew people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, and the one thing that I want to do is be able to shine a light on that, and that's kind of where the inspiration for the season and idea came about. Is because I've been meeting more people over the last year that literally, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to enjoy shows the way that we do, right? All the way down to like literally the security, and all the experiences and things that they've done over the years, whether it be from security all the way up to tour manager, whoever. It's things that I think is super interesting and needs to be talked about.
Oh, 100%. Because, like you said, like in the beginning, towards the beginning, like there's these up and coming guys and girls that want to hop into this career lifestyle, and they're looking for the outlet to get the advice on where to start. How do I start this? How do I do this? How do I do that? And us professionals have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 plus years. Like, yeah, we're here to help. Give advice. Whatever they need.
Exactly, and no one's trying to hide anything. I think you said it in the beginning. It's like ask as many questions as you can, right, to the people that are doing the thing that you're interested in. It seems like a no-brainer, but at the same time, a lot of people either are just too intimidated, don't know what to say, don't know what to ask, and then end up never, doing that, right? So, right. I think Adam L. Macias has that "Don't Shit on the Bus" podcast. Yeah, and I think he's the only one right now that I've actually been seeing actually interview people that work in music, and I think it's a very, he obviously has a lot more people that follow him and do his stuff. But as long as the conversation's being started, I think that's what matters. So, 100%. I have two more questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, we can talk about it offline, but if there's anybody that you think would be cool to bring on and chat more, I'm in this to meet more people to be able to bring on cool. and talk about their story, their experience, and whatnot. Let me know. Yeah. And then the last thing is, we are the Coffee and Sugar podcast. It really has nothing to do with coffee. My nickname is Coffee, and so it just kind of worked out. But what is your favorite way to have coffee?
Ooh. I don't know. I think it really depends on the day, because I go back and forth between iced and hot. So if I'm if I have an early flight, like an early 5:36 a.m. flight, give me hot coffee. That way I can just wake up, just be ready for my flight. But then, like, if it's during the day, it's like, oh, I'm starting to slump. Give me a nice coffee. But yeah, I'm a fan of white chocolate mochas. I like caramel lattes. And there's days where it's like, hey, just give me 2 creams and a sugar.
Got it. Simple, to the point. I like it. Cool. Well, man, that's all I had. And I appreciate your time and jumping on your day off. The few that you get on tour. So I did want to bring up, I think I'm mutual friends like on Instagram with someone that you may know, Danny Marshall.
Oh yeah, she's out with Breaking Bad right now, actually. Yeah,
we've interacted a few times, and I was like, I think I see that I saw that connection. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I'll have to let her know that you and I connected and talked for a minute. But
I'll see her actually in a few days, actually, when I fly back out for Breaking Bad.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to let you get back to your day. Again, Corbin, I appreciate it. I hope this was
James,
enjoyable.
No problem, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck on the rest of the tour and then into the Bad Omens one. It's been cool to watch everything that you're doing. So, we'll stay connected, and I'll let you know when this goes live.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good one. Chat soon.
Hey, you too.
Hey,
thanks, man.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.